on.
Okay.
But it does take a minute, it like spins around and.
Yeah, that's, they were
It
telling me
is
that this
delayed.
morning.
So we can take back what we said?
That's right.
And I told Joe when we put that in, I said, someday I'm gonna rue the day that I'm gonna say something stupid. But I still think it needs to be there.
It won't be the first.
Gotten in trouble a couple times.
So far, I've not been called on anything, so.
No, that's good.
You still involved in Boy Scouts? What you got lined up this year?
Conclave this weekend.
Oh, yeah?
That's the one for the OA for the
Where you can
state. All the
I think we
lodges.
can.
So that'll be interesting this weekend.
All right, let's call this meeting for some redevelopment order. We'll start off with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Well, we will start off with the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. I did look over them. Bill was absent. Did you see anything in there, Jack?
No, I would move that we accept the minutes from March 4th, 2024.
Okay, motion by Jack,
Second.
and Bill seconded it. Thank you, so we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Okay, moving on to new business. Let's see, A&Z Engineering roadway redesign. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so we have a supplemental agreement for the ongoing design for 300 North and 200 West. The real purpose of this is to address some of the issues we have on 300 North. The road is, for the most part, designed for total reconstruction, but we've got a lot of other projects going on right now. And I don't know that it makes a lot of sense for us to spend millions of dollars reconstructing that road. So what we'd like to do is pivot a little bit from that, design it so that the work that we're going to do to the road can be added onto it when we decide to spend the money to reconstruct that road. So the idea here is we're probably going to end up just chipping and sealing it for now. But we want that be done at a profile that matches the road design that we can then just build right off of it, do the stormwater stuff, and not waste we'll use the chip and seal more like a base. So this would be redesigning that so that it'd be a chip and seal for the short term until we decide to reconstruct it at a later date.
So it isn't, the redesign isn't a waste, a waste of money, it's whatever, it's just,
Yeah, I really just didn't want to spend. I didn't want to spend money and then not be able to utilize that. So this design will allow us to utilize whatever we're going to do with it when we reconstruct the road or put an actual asphalt road in. So the idea is that that chip and seal base that we're putting down will become the road base, and then we'll add asphalt on. But in order to do that, you still have to make sure the profile's right for your drainage design. Because at some point we'll have to put some pipe and so forth in the ground. So this is a cheap fix to a gravel road that I think will solve some problems until we feel like it's worth spending a couple $1 million to reconstruct the road.
yeah.
So this is 300 that goes past Madison,
Yes.
right? And it's west of Madison?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Going towards the cement, Ozinga. So Ozinga sits on 200 West and 300 North intersection. So it'd be paving that section, chipping and sealing that section where it's all gravel right now, all the way to 200 west.
Okay, so 200 west is pretty much about a mile west of,
Yeah, it's the end of where, so the Polk Drive runs through the tech park
Okay.
from 150 to 200 west, and we're paving from 150 to 200 west to 300 north. But it's still gonna be a decent road, because right now it's gravel and not a really great one at that, and and we're not really, the street department is not really set up to maintain gravel roads. And this is the only gravel road that we have, so it's a lot of work for them to keep dealing with this. So the intent was to reconstruct it, but at the end of the day, we could be $2-3 million into a road, and I'm not real sure. We've got better things to spend our $2-3 million on right now. So we're trying to come up with a better route that we can then reuse to complete whatever we need in the future without wasting money.
So this could be kind of a base for the,
Yeah, so this is basically just redesigning this, so it's the chip and seal becomes the base, so a lot of it's just a profile thing. So recutting that profile so that chip and seal becomes the base, and then we build asphalt over that. But a lot of the profile has to do with our ability to drain the road, and some of those ditches are gonna have to be recut in, so that's a lot of what the design work is for.
so then 200 is just going to be kind of put on hold for now?
Yes. It's already chip and seal, it's not bad.
Oh,
The
okay.
intent was to pave all of it, curb, gutter, storm, and we will get there at some point. We just have a lot of projects right now, and that's just not
Sure.
the best place to put our millions of dollars at the moment.
that's a pretty busy time of the year, isn't it?
You know, we just have a lot of projects. We just got a lot of projects and a lot of good things that we're doing. A lot of new construction, and when that corner develops, I think we'll have to do something at that point, but it's not developing today, and we've got other parts in this district that are developing, so we can do a short-term fix that will help the street department, make the roads safer for those that are traveling on it, address some of the stormwater issues out there, and then we can reuse what we're doing now to rebuild the road when we need to.
Bill, do you have any questions or anything about it? Understand?
And so you need a motion?
Yep, just a motion to approve the supplemental contract.
I'll make that motion to approve the supplemental agreement.
Okay, Jack made a motion.
Second.
All right, Bill seconded it. All in favor, say aye.
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 Done.
So we're done with that. We're trusting your judgment. Next up is the financial report. Welcome, Mayor.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you. Long time no see. Financial report presentation.
Yeah, so you had the draft last week, you have the financial report, non-draft in front of you. As part of our requirement with the state, we have to present to all the taxing units. Part of our requirement to the state is to report to all the taxing units, TIF impact. We've done this for a few years now. So all of them were invited. They were sent a notice to this meeting. That went out a month or so ago. Yeah. You can see they're all really excited to be here today. I'll go through this real quick since no one's really here. Most of you have probably seen this a few times. Bill's probably only seen it once, but in general, this is just a quick understanding of TIF and how they work by capturing taxes that are generated from new developments. This is just a breakdown of the base AV, the incrementals, what we capture, and all TIF districts have an expiration. When we talk about what's the impact, you're looking at tax collection, the tax rate, jobs created, commercial and residential growth, income, sales, payroll taxes collected, TIF percentage of a total AV, Our TIF percentage has gone up a little bit over the years, but for the most part, it's stayed within a couple of percent. I think for 2023, it was 15% of the total AV was TIF, and roughly the rest of it is still collected by all taxing agencies. So 85% is still collected by tax agency. So when you're looking at what a TIF impact is on any specific tax collector, there's two different ways to look at the value of the TIF district. If you don't have any development, you have no increase, so you could look at it as a no impact. You also have to factor in what that economic development generator does, whether it be jobs, homes, and so forth. So, and in the last would be the TIF margin. You can only collect what you're capped at. So even if we had $100,000 and you could only go up to your cap, and your cap was only short $1,000, you're only going to collect $1,000. And I'll show you what I mean by that here in a second. So if we look at it from a no TIF, no development, if you look at the Winona interurban, it's a prime kind of example of that. We haven't been real successful in generating TIF revenue with that because nothing's been built there over the last few years. Now that has increased here recently with the marketplace project that we've done, the Arnold project that's under construction now, and the GACI. So that's going to change a lot. But if you historically look at what has happened out there, we've collected very little revenue because there wasn't any construction. Don't add new taxes, you're not really having an impact on anybody. So the whole point of the TIF is to create an opportunity with those funds created with new development. If it doesn't work, there is no impact. So the whole point there with the Winona interurban was just to show if we're not doing our job, we're not really impacting anybody if we're not creating new taxes to be collected. The other side of the tax impact is job growth and other taxes generated from those growth, like sales tax, income tax, so forth. So when you factor in job growth, housing creation, and other taxes collected, whether it be sales tax, income tax, or so forth, you can see how the impact starts to reduce. Point being is, yes, we're generating and collecting X, but we're also generating and collecting taxes that aren't captured through the TIF, and that's passed through all tax agencies. So everybody's benefiting from the growth that's occurring within these districts. They may not be benefiting from collecting that specific tax that we're generating, but they're benefiting by the job growth that's being created, the retail growth that's created from those job growth, the sales tax, the income tax, and the new homes that are being built because of those developments. So all of that kind of convalesces into a actual reduction into what the true impact is because they're collecting more taxes in other areas based on the growth that we're creating within those TIF districts. And this is, the northern TIF is just an example there when you factor in those different impacts, those different increments from economic development. Winona interurban is the one, like I said, we haven't really done a very good job in that district. We've worked hard, and I would say in the last 5 years we've been getting more successful at trying to create some development out there, but we haven't really created much of an impact there, so whatever money we're collecting would be a direct withdrawal on the total taxes available. Same with the residential. We've got a couple of developments that we're working on, Park Ridge, a couple of developments out north, so that will change as those developments come online. But right now it's pretty much just a direct impact to the TIF. So what I was talking about earlier is the maximum versus certified levy. Depending on what your certified levy is, you can only collect up to that certified levy. So when we talk about TIF, if we have $1 million that we're collecting in TIF, and you can only collect $100,000, you don't get $1 million, you can only get the $100,000. So when we're talking about how that impacts on the maximum levy, you'll see from the last few years, the school corporation, I think the library is in there, and then the county, you can see that those boxes indicate the maximum versus the certified levy. So you can see just because we're collecting increment doesn't necessarily mean that they would be entitled to that increment. They're only going to be entitled to what the difference between their max levy and what they collect for that year. When you look at a levy gap, the Warsaw School Corporation for 2023 and 2024, those levy gaps were a couple $1,000s. So it wouldn't matter how much money we're collecting. If we were to pass through TIF, they would only collect a couple $1,000s more in additional revenue. The library had a bigger gap. You can see their gap, and then the county, that's the township, that's Prairie Township, you can see their gap there as well. So both of those have very small differences between their max levy and what they're collecting. You can see the county's gap is a little bit bigger. Same with, hard for me to see that. Wayne Township, and then Plain Township, and the solid waste district they have a little bit of a gap, but not a large gap. So when we look at those results, you can see resulting levy gap for 2023 was 200,000, and then 2024 was 102,000. So if you combine all those taxing agencies, what would really happen would be, and we were to do away with TIF districts, the city would lose around $4 million in revenue. And that revenue would not be collected by those taxing agencies. It would just be gone. The gap is that 102,000. That's the most that would be collected if we passed through all the TIF, disbanded all the TIF districts tomorrow. The only amount that would be roughly collected would be around that 102,000 of that 4 million. The rest would be lost.
Jeremy, so the TIF districts, I'm looking at 4 million plus in 23 and 24. And I'm understanding that if there were no TIF districts, then we're back up to the 200 to 100,000.
Yes, if there's no TIF districts, and this is for all taxing agencies, the max that would be collected, in addition to what they're collecting now, if they went up to their max levy, would for 2024 would only be 102,000 of that 4+ million that we have in TIF collection.
Thank you.
It was a little higher in 2023. So what we do with that $4 million is really important, right? Because it benefits everybody. And if we don't have it, we're not making those investments that are benefiting everybody. At the end of the day, all the TIF districts will expire, and as those expire, they'll go back on the tax rolls, which will have a huge impact in the future as we build those developments. So the intent of it is to take that 20-year time frame, hyper-develop those areas, and then release them to the taxing agencies. So this is just a couple of different charts that show you that increment. So you can see the total increment is around, 2023 is around 4.5, and 2024 was around 4.3, I think, or 4.2. Total levy gap is that just shows you how much would be lost, and then you can see the lost revenue. So it's really important for those that say, oh, the TIF money is taking tax money away from us. It's not really, because you're already collecting up to your max levy. Now, if you're not collecting your max levy, like the county, then you can make the argument, oh, we could collect more money, but they're already leaving millions on the table. So adding more millions to it that they're not going to collect isn't going to do anybody any good. So when we look at the true impact, we're really just looking at a lot of different things, whether it be the max levy, the growth, the jobs that are created, the increment that's collected, and really what we're doing with that increment, which is creating opportunities and trying to grow the AV that will be eventually returned to all those taxing agencies. So when we look at the Northern TIF District and how we've been successful there in creating jobs, creating growth, when that starts to expire in 6 years, that will start to be collected by all those agencies, which will have a great impact on the tax rate. So not only do we use growth in general to keep our tax rate down, which is what Warsaw's done successfully over the last 10 years through Talmer and Ernie and now Jeff, using our growth to keep those tax rates pretty level. But this is going to be another huge win for us as we grow those districts and those expire, because those will be released to all those taxing agencies. Well, that's all I have, but certainly I can take any questions.
Jeremy, so as our economic development director, you find the TIF impact to be very positive for not just our jurisdiction, but the entire area?
Yeah, if it's used properly. I mean, I'm not trying to speak for everybody across the state, and there's been a lot of battles in certain places across the state over TIF. But if it's used properly, done properly, and it's specific to the intent that's set up, and we've been very specific on what we're trying to accomplish with the Northern TIF District between the retail and the industrial growth that we've had, Tech Park and the retail corridor on 15. Winona Lake and the housing push to get some housing and redevelopment of that corridor. So when you're specific in what you're trying to do with those TIFs and you keep working to accomplish that, I think they're very useful. I'm sure there's some communities that maybe don't use it properly, but when it's used properly, it's a huge tool for our cities. And it doesn't necessarily impact the taxing agencies immediately. It's more of a long-term play. And if it's done right, like the Northern TIF District, as it starts to roll off in 6 years, that's going to be a huge impact to all those taxing agencies. They're not going to collect more money. It's never been about the amount of money you collect, because you're already capped at your max levy. And then that percent growth that's factored from the state every year, right? They set that growth. So that growth and that max levy is not going to impact what they capture. What it's going to do in the long term is it's going to impact their ability to keep their tax rates steady, so that they're not having to increase. That's the point of this, the growth that we're trying to create.
That's good. Any questions? I noticed on page 9 that the decimal point there, where it
Yes.
says budget. When I first looked at that, I thought, holy mackerel. Isn't that, because it's the only one with the decimal.
Yeah,
So
it's all that.
added a couple zeros to it.
Yeah, you know, it's all good.
At least when I saw it, I thought, oh. But that's, well, thank you for the explanation. That's always, sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around everything that the Redevelopment Commission does, but in Jeremy's job. So we appreciate, and this is always a great report and a great source of information. And so of course you can always call, we can always call Jeremy if we have questions about,
Yeah, when we do the budgets here in another month or so,
Yeah.
this will be a great resource for you, and so keep it handy.
You don't need a motion or anything on this.
No, there was just a presentation that had to be given in a public meeting.
So the
We've-
public-
We've check that box from the state's requirements. This has all been submitted to the state's page, so all of these have been submitted to the DLGF. And Lynn, I believe, I think she told me she checked the box. I put all the information in 2 weeks ago. I think she went through it, checked the box, and so we should be done with that as well. So we've met our requirements with the state in terms of presenting it to the taxing agencies, as well as putting that information online so anybody can go and pull it up and look at it.
Great report, though. All right, well, thank you. We have that, and we'll get to keep that and use that if you have more questions during the budget time. So we can move on to approval of claims, because we have a few of them here.
We do have a few. So you have $34.99 from Quills for office supplies, specifically printing paper. Amazon Business $271.96. I'm assuming it was also office supplies. Yep. Those posters for a presentation that we gave a couple weeks ago. $52.75 for NIPSCO. I'm assuming this is in the Marsh Building. BIT Computers, $1,584.97, which was the laptop that I just used for the presentation. Indiana American Water, $245.69 for the Marsh Building. Indiana American Water, $165.09 for the Marsh Building. Barnes and Thornburg, $1,663 is ongoing legal for the different TIF projects that we have. A&Z Engineering, $12,828.70 is for the 300 North project. West Hill, $42,000 is part of our lease agreement with them. So that's the lease payment for March
No, it's for April.
or April. Okay. And then Kedco, $300 is for our agreement to pay to have space for Peak Med at the Kedco office.
All right.
Any
Any questions on any of these?
Make a motion to approve the claims for April.
Okay, Bill made a motion to approve the claims as presented.
A second.
Jack seconded. Thank you. Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So it's unanimous. Any other business here?
I've got no other business. We've got a lot of things in the works. We'll probably be looking at expanding the northern TIF district at our next meeting to bring in another property that Danco purchased. We might, and so I'm going to be presenting to you the opportunity to consolidate TIF districts again. So we consolidated northern TIF district. So I think I'm going to ask you guys to consolidate the northern TIF district and the downtown TIF district into one district, which will allow us to use those funds throughout that area.
Are you gonna do that in the next meeting?
We're going to start that process. My goal is to start that process at the next meeting. I won't guarantee it because I got a lot of work I got to do between then and now. But the goal is to start. I got a calendar that Randy put together. The goal is to start that at the next meeting. So that's going to be something we're going to be working on. GACI bond should go to issue in the next 30 days, I think. So we'll be going out to issue with that project. Keep working on the Owens project. So we're getting closer on that one. And then, I think it seems like there's another project we've got working on. Oh, the Marsh. I think we've kind of coming to the end of the line with that agreement. So we'll have to reset and figure out what our next steps for the Marsh property are.
There's no public, there's nothing in the works. There's nothing concrete in the works, anything there.
No, I mean, they've tried to market it to some people. They had some interest. That interest wasn't meeting the economic needs of the agreement. So I think they're pretty much saying that they could not find a tenant. They haven't officially closed the agreement yet, but I think that's where they're moving towards, is just saying we gave it our best shot, but they're gonna back out of it.
Public knowledge that Aldi's is gonna put another Aldi's here, but, so we don't know anything.
I mean, I'm gonna reach out to him again, but I went round and round with them, and they, to my knowledge, they had conversations, and Aldi's just basically said they did not want to be there. So yes, it makes sense to me. Seems like a logical place for them. I think it would be a good place for them in terms of capturing specific segments of the market, but they don't feel that way. And even giving the building away was not incentive enough to draw them in.
Everybody seems to think this side of town would be great to have something in that, so. But I didn't think that was where they were thinking, because I hadn't heard anything.
No, I'm pretty sure I know where they're thinking, but they have not specifically said anything.
All right.
But I'll reach out to their, I don't even know if they're still contracted with him. It was a group out of Chicago that they originally contracted with. And the last conversation I had with them, they said that they were withdrawing and they weren't gonna build a second story. And then, lo and behold, they buy our liquor and it ends up in the paper again. So
Yeah.
the last conversation I had with their representative out of Chicago was that they were not going to build a second story.
But they want 2 liquor licenses.
Yeah. Well, if they haven't,
And maybe it's a play on, I mean, most of these companies are setting aside a specific, so they'll say, well, we're gonna add 12 new stores this year. And they'll target these specific areas. So Warsaw may be on their target list, so maybe they bought it because it was available. And although they said, no, we're not gonna build a store right now, 2 years from now, it might be back on their list. And the liquor license was there, it was available, it was the right price, maybe they purchased it with the intent that, well, we might want to put another store. Right now, we backed off of it for 2023. Maybe it's back on for 2024, it could back off of, maybe it's back on for 2025. I mean, they're gonna set their schedules on when they're gonna open new stores. They set a specific amount of stores that they wanna try to open. I'm sure it's on the list, because they've already looked at it. They've, a year ago. When they come forward, it's hard to say.
all right.
Got a lot of people excited over that headline.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, like a year ago, I was pounding marsh, let's get you in the Marshville. I really think it makes a lot of sense at that location. They just didn't like it.
They seem to have their own building preference, though,
Concept,
don't they?
yeah.
Concept.
They do, and I'm sure that would be a challenge for them,
Yeah.
to say the least.
The space and they'd have,
Yeah.
so,
But, I mean, quite frankly, with where new construction costs are at, I mean, you're talking about probably half the cost to reutilize that building for them than to build a new one. So
Mhm.
yeah.
there's a lot of factors to play in there in terms of their operating costs, long-term operating costs. It seems like that would be a better play for them, but everybody wants to be on 30. It's just nature of the.
They know that's going to become a freeway, right?
I'm told everybody knows it's going to become a freeway, but even as a freeway, if you have on and off ramps, 30,000 cars driving by your store every day, and all you have to do is veer right. That's where the money's at.
Pay a lot more for that property. That's for sure.
That's all I got.
All right. If that's it, no more questions, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will move that we adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Second, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This will say. You did that today. All of them.